That's okay.
Should we go for it?
Yep.
Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sarah Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Bonn Park on Bonn Park.
I had so much fun with this. I was anticipating it, and I was excited, and it delivered 10 times what I was hoping for.
So we're breaking our rule. Our podcast is completely local. Everybody has a connection to the Waterloo region, but when we found out there was a Korean-German man named Bonn Park, who is a director and a playwright, we just thought, yep, he's coming on our show.
This is one of my favorite podcasts that we've recorded.
Bonn has moved to Korea for work. He's working on a very exciting play that he's developing right now. We won't give it away. We talk a lot about Bonn's Instagram stories on this episode. Bonn has been documenting his quarantine in Korea. I'm trying to talk him into turning these stories into a short film, but it's a beautiful documentation of his days in quarantine.
Fascinating. Let's roll this amazing interview with Bonn Park.
Welcome to 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 Bonn Park.
Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review.
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
Share directly from the platforms.
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it. Bonn Park is supported by Waterloo Brewing. Since they first opened their doors in 1984, Waterloo Brewing has invited thirsty beer lovers to pour the boar. A symbol of strength and courage, the boar is a fitting symbol for Waterloo Brewing. The company is not only Ontario's first craft brewer, in operation decades before the current microbrew trend, but it is also the largest. To pour the boar is to taste an Ontario brewing tradition that is always evolving. The core recipes on which they built their success remain the same, using only fresh and simple ingredients. Waterloo Brewing's balanced quality beers like their traditional IPA, dark amber, and craft lager were created to be enjoyed year-round. Perfect for sweltering summers, their crisp and refreshing fruit radlers have been wildly popular. These drinks blend craft lager with real fruit juice to create sweet and punchy flavors like watermelon, tart cherry, raspberry pineapple, and Waterloo Brewing's award-winning grapefruit. Waterloo Brewing's beer store is located at 400 Binghamton Center Drive in Kitchener, or visit them online for free local boar-to-door home delivery at waterloobrewing.com. Whether you've been pouring the boar since 1984, or you've never poured the boar before, Waterloo Brewing has your perfect pour in store. We are supported by Four Corners Algonquin. Authentic, original, off the beaten path. Located a short 5-hour drive from the region of Waterloo, Four Corners Algonquin Camping and Glamping is Algonquin Park's newest one-of-a-kind safari tent camping experience. Sport or rest, thrill or contemplation, bonding with friends or family, you'll find something to do for every ability, for every taste, and for every budget. Fall asleep in our king-size beds listening to the sounds of nature. Try our no-charge self-guided itineraries, trail and beach-accessible wheelchairs, and the Fire Buddy program to help you get your nightly campfires crackling. View the Perseid meteor shower at our dark sky-friendly viewing location. Bring your own creature comforts or reserve them from our quartermaster shack and have them delivered right to your site. Situated on 90 acres, we are well equipped for physical distancing requirements. Whether you are a camping novice or a camping ninja, check us out on Facebook or visit us at fourcornersalgonquin.ca to book your adventure. We are supported by Villain Sauce Company. If you want to spice up your culinary life, Villain is your new hero. Their 5 blazing concoctions are fresh, made in small batches, and bursting with flavor. You've got to try their multi-award-winning Smoky Mountain Punch Sauce with its delicious smoky habanero flavor. Want it hotter? Try their hottest sauce yet, the Bad Guy Sauce, which has a tropical taste with enough heat from the Carolina Reapers to really make you sweat. Villain has several other flavors that vary in heat level, all made with locally sourced all-natural ingredients with no preservatives. Check out their whole line at villainsauceco.ca and on Facebook and Instagram. You can also find their amazing sauces at Vincenzo's in Waterloo. Enjoy and keep a cold glass of milk handy, as all of their hot sauces are hand-picked for destruction. We are supported by Market Road Antiques. Cool down on a hot summer's day at Market Road Antiques. More than 100 dealer booths cover the store's 20,000 square feet. It's a perfect way to take a socially distanced stroll through history. You'll find vintage furniture, clothing, records, games, relics, curiosities, and everything else you can imagine. Market Road Antiques is open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, all year, including Canada Day and most holidays. They are located in the St. Jacobs Market District at 845 Weber Street North in Waterloo. You can also check out their online store at stjacobsmarket.com/market-road-antiques.
I've never met somebody who has my name, and now at least I met something that has my name.
It's a very unique name. So Bonn Park, thank you so much for joining us. We'll get right started here. We started this podcast because Marshall and I met at a park in our neighborhood. We both have families and spouses, and we would hang out at this park and watch our children play and get to know each other. So we made this podcast to sort of recreate those conversations like we're meeting someone for the first time. And the name of that park is Bonn Park. In our neighborhood, most of the streets are Swiss names. So there's a lot of Zermatt, Amberg, Freiburg, and Bonn Park. Yeah. So when I was registering our site and doing everything online, I was like, oh my gosh, there is a Bonn Park. Like a person.
Yeah. I also think the name Park is a really cool name. Like I love the name Gorky Park and Lincoln Park, and just something with that name just is a really strong, great word.
It's a beautiful name.
Yeah. And but Lincoln Park? You mean Lincoln, like the president?
I think that's where it comes from. But Lincoln Park is like a rock band?
A rock band in America, yeah.
I think I was born in Germany. My parents are Korean. And I think they wanted a name that was working in Germany and in Korea, and they choose a name that is strange in Germany and in Korea, which is a job that only my parents can accomplish, I think. So the story behind Bonn is in German. Bonn is the former capital city of Germany, of West Germany. It is a very boring town, and after World War II, they just decided this is the capital city because it's a very boring town. And like this kind of devotion, is that a word? Mm-hmm. Like this kind of, hey, we did 2 world wars, now we're going to be very boring. It was like this kind of gesture, I think. And after the reunification of Germany, Berlin became the capital city again, but I was born before that. So Bonn now is back in like nothingness and completely irrelevant in the world, in Germany too. And my father studied politics back then. And I think he was a big Germany fan, like a fan of Germany, like a fan of German values that nobody is a fan of, like punctuality and mediocrity and all these things. And a dish that is not good, like it's a cooked pork leg. It's not delicious. And he likes like very strange things about Germany. And I think because he was a fan of Germany, so I was named after the capital city. And then if you spell it in Korean, which is Bonn, slightly different, is like an ancient Chinese word for roots or like a foundation or something like that. But then it's really weird. In Germany, I'm named after a very boring city, which is like a very weird decision to make. Like, why not an exciting city like Paris? In Korea, almost everyone has always 2 syllables. And so Bonn is just 1, which is also weird. Yeah.
Weird and wonderful. We love it.
Thank you. I love the name of your podcast too.
I was just thinking we should check in with each other every year. Like, check in, see what you're doing, have you back.
That would be great, actually.
Yeah, why not? We're breaking our rule because I think I told you over Instagram. We only talk about people in our town. It's like our thing, right? We just talk about people in our own city, what they do.
Oh, I see.
So we're breaking our rule just for you.
Oh, that's a big honor. It's a really big honor. Yeah. So there are many things that has park in its name, like persons, parks, actual parks, rock bands.
And Korean German playwrights.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you. That's right. So when I was doing this searching online, I thought, okay, not only is there a human named Bonn Park, but he's got this incredible career and a very interesting life from my perspective on the other side of the internet. So I started.
Ask you how you found out about that? Because everything I figure must be in German, isn't it? Or is there like
a lot of it's translated?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I can't read in German. I know a few little words because my in-laws are German. So I know like Schmetterling and like and my father-in-law always says Raus. I know that. And maybe some bad words. But
do you think Schmetterling is a beautiful word for butterfly?
I do think it's a beautiful word for butterfly. And then I love all the like I don't know a lot of languages, but in Spanish it's mariposa, and in French is papillon. Butterfly. They're just beautiful words. I don't know. I'm not obsessed with butterflies. I just seem to think all these different.
And there's a Gemütlichkeit, which, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It means comfort.
Oh, nice.
I think it's said at dinner time sometimes around like Oktoberfest. Yeah. So that would make sense.
Oh, yeah. Our town has like Kitchener-Waterloo, where we live, has a major German origin. It was German settlers that came here. Our city was originally named Berlin in like 1800s, I want to say.
Yeah, even early 1900s.
Early 1900s. So there's a lot of German culture in our city, just naturally from those settlers. But why do you ask about Schmetterling? Why do you ask if you think it's a beautiful word?
Because I don't know. I read it somewhere in the internet. I don't know where. Maybe it was a YouTube commentary that Schmetterling, there was like a debate whether or not Schmetterling is a good, fitting, beautiful word for butterfly. And I can't tell because
it's your
a word in my language. So.
What's the Korean word for butterfly?
Nabi.
Nabi. See, beautiful. The one thing I love about the German language, like I said, I don't speak it, but I love that it's straightforward. Like you pronounce every letter. Every letter is accounted for. English is so different.
But then again, it's really complicated too. Like sometimes you have like a marathon of consonants, like just consecutive consonants. And I figure that this is hard to pronounce for foreigners. And they like apply special rules. If like ST is never start, for example, it's Start. And SCH is also schön, like, right? Beautiful, schön, not schön. Yeah.
Do you enjoy all those amazing German beers?
I do. I miss them a lot because I'm here in quarantine and I'm not allowed to drink. Then there's this pandemic going on. So
oh, you're kidding. I hadn't heard.
Yeah. I haven't had like a beer in a glass in a while.
Marshall's a big beer fan.
Yeah. So this past Christmas, my wife got me an advent calendar, and every day was a different German beer.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was
pretty fun.
It's pretty amazing. Some of them were very, very strong.
Yeah, I know that German beers are really expensive outside of Germany, which is really funny because beer in Germany is cheaper than bottled water. Like,
That makes sense. So Bonn, why don't you tell us about your journey right now? So you are a playwright.
Yes.
In Germany, Deutschland, and you're currently quarantining in Korea because you plan to work in Korea. So I'm enthralled by your Instagram stories. I truly think that you should put these Instagram stories together and make a short film, because I would watch it. Like I would go to a theater and watch that. It is so intriguing to watch your journey right now. And there's something comforting about it, just seeing what you're going through. And I know it's not fun for you, but the style where you're showing us the same thing every day, it's artwork. I'm enjoying it so much.
It's nice that you say that, because at the beginning, because I was planning that, I actually deinstalled Instagram from my phone like 4 or 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. And then in my head, when I knew I had to quarantine here, and when I learned about like how like strict it is, I was like, okay, I'm going to Instagram it, all of it, no matter how boring it gets. And at the beginning, it was like really exciting when there was like these people in these like post-apocalyptic fashion kind of, and then you walk 3 meters and then behind you there's a guy with like this thing and disinfects the street, and everything looks like in a zombie movie kind of. And for the first time since this pandemic has broken out, I felt like this is a pandemic. Now I get it. Like the way they treat it here is like, aha, this is a pandemic. And in Germany, everything is like, I don't know how it is in Canada, but in Germany, everything is really chaotic and up to a point where people just say there is no corona and all these things, right? And everything is really, and wow. People like right-wing people go demonstrate for democracy, which is like, it gets really weird at some point, all because of this pandemic. And here it's really, you come here and you fill out documents. Nobody wants to touch you. You're like, your body temperature gets like checked every 5 minutes. You have no eye contact whatsoever. I haven't seen a face because everyone is covered, right? Like in 3 masks and a face shield and this, how do you say? I don't know the English word, like this body suit.
Maybe we would call it coveralls, but we often call it a hazmat suit.
Yeah. And I think it was really spectacular for the people at the beginning. Like, what's going on in Korea? It's so strict. It's so crazy. It's like a prison and you really can't go out. How are you? All these questions. And then as the time passes by, and in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to gram the same things over and over again. I know there's not going to be anything spectacular. And then the messages got less and less and less, up to a point where my cousin texted me today, your Instagram is boring.
Opposite reaction. I am like, I can't wait to check it.
Yeah. And then I said, of course it's boring. And then it's really nice of you that you tell me that you like to check it still. And that keeps me going. And I feel like, actually, I've never watched it. I've never rewatched my own stories. So I don't know how it feels like to watch it. But maybe you have these archives and Instagram, so maybe I'll rewatch it at the end altogether.
Maybe it'd be interesting once you're separated from quarantine, once you're out of quarantine and feeling less isolated. I'm sure there's a lot of isolation that goes with how you're feeling right now. It'd be interesting to watch it and sort of gauge how you're feeling at that time.
Yeah.
I really love, there's a Marshall doesn't do social media. Marshall doesn't own a cell phone. He's not on the internet.
But it's very healthy, I think.
Very healthy. Yeah. He's living the full life over here. And I'm like obsessed with Bonn Park stories, but there's a wonderful part of, you have to fill out a questionnaire every day. That's how are you feeling? What's your temperature? What's going on? And you were writing song lyrics. Like you've reached a point where you're like, I'm just going to write song lyrics and how I'm feeling today. What song was that again? I can't, If I Ain't Got You, maybe?
Yeah, it was If I Ain't Got You. It was All Star by Smash Mouth, which I really love. And some other song I forgot. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
How's the food in quarantine?
It comes in a plastic box, like a lunch box, and then there's rice, and it's cold. Sometimes some items are really good, sometimes some items are really bad. The scrambled eggs are never salted and they don't give you salt, but I kind of lost appetite. I just stopped eating, kind of like I don't really eat a lot because I don't move a lot too. I work out once a day at nighttime, which I don't usually do. I'm not like a very athletic type of guy, but here I figure I don't move, so I have to like work out a little bit at least. It's cold. It's cold and it comes in a plastic box. It's coming in a loop, actually. Like I figured that after a week, the same items repeated itself.
One of the Korean eateries we have here in town is called A Taste of Seoul, and their most popular dish that people seem to love here is bibimbap. Am I pronouncing that properly?
Yeah, I had bibimbap too here twice, like last Saturday and today, which is also Saturday.
And I guess it's a dish that's rooted in ancestry. It's a very old traditional dish.
Yeah, I think. I don't know really the story of bibimbap, but it's something that is like the door opener to Korean cuisine, I think, around the world, especially in the westernized cuisine, because it's not too spicy. It's rice, it's vegetables. It's not like fancy spices or whatever, not strange meats. So I think this is like the door opener into Korean cuisine for a lot of people. But to me, it's kind of boring because it's just rice with vegetables.
I think the gochujang sauce is what really draws people in, and fresh avocado and a fried egg on top.
Yeah, avocados, for example, is something that is made up by, I think this is westernized because there's no avocados in Korea.
Well, you know how much we love our avocados over here. So, Bonn, why don't you tell us about your journey? So you were living and working in Germany, and now you're going to be working in Korea. What's your project? What are you going to be doing?
So I'm a playwright, but I'm also a director, and I like to work with a group, and I like to write and direct for the group that I'm working with. So my real work starts with the first day of rehearsals, actually, when I meet the actors and the team here. I mean, I come with a team, but like the actors are from here. And so it always starts with a lot of research. And I come with an idea and a topic. And this time we're going to make a play that takes place in how do you say that in English? In the center of the earth, like the core, earth core. Is that the word? Yeah.
Yep.
And it's centered around like the idea of K-pop and K-drama in relation to Korea and the world, because I just recently got into it, like through research. I really got into K-drama. I really got into K-pop, and I start really liking it. And for example, I think they have like this idea of perfectionism, which is very interesting, that everything they do is not original, but it wants to be perfect, which is very interesting. So like the culture, like the pop, like the music, the TV, the films, which is all like art-based, it's an art, but they turn it into something else, which is perfection, which is really interesting because like art is like goes hand in hand with biographies, right? Like people who have to tell something, who have a story to tell in their way. Is it music? Is it theater? Is it a film? Whatever. And then sometimes it conquers the world. Like, I don't know, pop music, rap music, which has, especially in the US where it comes from, has such a huge history of like Black culture, like poverty, racism, everything is in this culture of rap music, right? And then they take it into like a 30-second part into a K-pop song where like a 19-year-old girl has the perfect technique of rapping to a perfect produced sound, but it has nothing to do with her. But it sounds amazing. And she looks perfect. Everyone looks perfect because of plastic surgery and the way they cast the members, right? And the actors. So I find that really interesting because like 10 years ago, it already started with like plastic surgery, for example. And I had a very westernized idea about it. You are beautiful as you are born, and your individuality and makes you beautiful, blah, blah, blah. It's like a very westernized thing, I think, to look at beauty. And Korea or Koreans, they took it to another level. And it is very interesting how it even works for me. That when I watch a K-drama or K-pop, I see everyone is beautiful. And I know it's all through plastic surgery. And I kind of lost like this fear of plastic surgery, like against it. Like I don't think there's any harm in it anymore. I think it's very interesting to be like, to have the desire to be perfect, to dance for 15 hours, to practice for 15 hours, singing, dancing, all these things. So yeah, so what I want to say is that, our idea is that in this earth core is where K-pop is coming from, or K-culture is coming from, or
this is
like
fascinating.
And that it's not like marketing or like CEOs who come up with ideas or producers, but it all comes through a hole in the earth and comes up, and then it's like a processed a finished product, a perfect product already. And that's the idea. And this is also a Korean mentality thing, to be perfect, to be in control, and all these things. So yeah, and we're going to explore that, but where we're going to end, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, that's very exciting.
What's the environment like in the middle of the earth, in the center of the earth? What's it like in there?
Yeah, and the reason I was slightly late was because I was talking to my stage designer, who's also quarantined right now, but in a different hotel, because it's random by the government where you go. And she showed me the first pictures of the model, and it's not finished yet, so I can't really tell, but there's like a hole in the center, like in the roof, and there's light coming through, and Kpop and light is going through the hole in the roof. And then we don't know how the earth core looks like, which is a problem, but also a chance. Oh, sorry. In theater, you can just say, hey, this is the earth core, and then show the stage.
So isn't it supposed to be very fiery and hot in the center of the earth?
Yeah, but I think we're going to skip that. I think because it's too hot to have humans in the earth core. So we have something man-made inside the earth core.
Oh, cool. So it's like an idea on top of it. So you're in the earth core, but it's not natural elements. It's like a station of some kind, a man-made station.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
So Bonn, when I think about people who live in Korea and how popular K-pop is here in Canada, for example, how is that seen? I'll give an example. In the 1980s, I saw how Japan became fascinated with North American heavy metal, right? They seem to really love our heavy metal bands, and our heavy metal bands would go over and sell out everywhere. And then you would see bands like Loudness was one of the biggest Japanese metal bands to come out. And I remember always thinking that was so interesting that here I am in Canada, and I can see that another country has completely fallen in love with our heavy metal music scene.
Without the internet at that time.
Without the internet, yeah.
And that's not over. I've been really into Bandmade lately, which is a Korean heavy metal all-girl band. Lots of costumes, like maybe almost cosplay-ish. Do you know Bandmade?
No.
Okay, you have to check them out. They're incredibly talented, but it goes back to what Bonn was saying earlier, is there's no way these girls just had regular music lessons. They were definitely 15 hours a day, heavily trained. They are incredibly talented. And that music is tighter than any North American heavy metal I've ever heard. It's perfect. Perfect.
Yes.
But that's still a theme that's running.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It seems like Japan has such a love for our heavy metal bands. But I guess what I was trying to get at is that must be interesting. I remember as a big heavy metal fan going, that's really interesting. Japan seems to really, really love our music to the point where they emulate it in their own bands, basically. Anyways, how is that? How do you think music fans in Korea think about how popular K-pop is in a country like Canada?
I think Koreans are very proud that K-pop and K-drama and that the movie Parasite won an Oscar and all these things.
The movie was terrifying.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And I think they're very proud of it. And also, but I feel like during my research, for example, I watched the Netflix documentation about Blackpink, which is like the most popular K-pop girl group. Yeah.
I watched that twice because it's fascinating.
It is, yeah.
I've never worked that hard in my life, and I consider myself a very hard worker. They just go. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see them like in a regular apartment building, and then they live there, the four of them, in a building together in one apartment. And then they make Chinese candy and like pack their suitcases. And then the one girl, like the eldest, she says, hey, take a scarf. It's going to be cold in Bangkok around this time of year or something like that. And then she says, I don't have a scarf. And then it's like, what? You are like the most famous girl group in the world, and you don't even have your own apartment, which is kind of like, they live like students, and it's kind of interesting, but very fitting to like Korean mentality, which is like very like where age plays a big role. Like it's a huge hierarchy of age. So even if you're world famous, when you're young. So it doesn't matter. What I found really interesting was that between the lines that when they said we went to Coachella, they played at Coachella, and they said this was like the best concert where we felt that we made it, because now we are at this big festival in the US, and they have like the desire, I think, to be not just K-pop, but to be music, right? Musicians, like real musicians, not just K-pop, not just like a fetish or something. So this is something which I think K-pop wants to accomplish, that it's not just K-pop, but actual just pop, just cut the K, I guess. Yeah.
Just pop. I just checked, actually. I sent you a link to Bandmate, and they're not Korean, they're Japanese. So that's my bad. But one of the fascinating things in that Blackpink documentary was once the band was ready, so they go through this intensive training camp, lots of young women, girls, really, and they're not all selected. The whole training camp is for Blackpink or different groups, but they're not all selected, and they're all working so hard. So once they're selected, once they have worked out their songs and their numbers, and they have proper wardrobe, and they've really branded the girls, then they are sort of paraded in front of this room of marketers and corporate branding folks, sort of paraded out like a commodity, like they're for sale. You know, I found that fascinating to me, because I feel it's very different than what seems to happen here. Maybe I'm wrong about that in the music industry, but it was so foreign to me, this idea of, okay, we've made a product. Here's the product that we're ready to sell. Everybody check it out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you hear all these things about K-pop, right? Like what you said, that it's very rough and very controlled environment where the members are not allowed to have boy or girlfriends, not allowed to drink or smoke, that they have to work for 14, 15 hours a day and then go to sleep and then come back, which I think shocked like the Western world kind of. But then this is Korea. It is how it works, like with everything. People work all the time, and people listen to their bosses. And when they say you cannot drink, they're not like, wait, I read the law of our country, and you cannot forbid me to drink when I'm like over 19 years old. They just say, yes, I'm not drinking, right? Because this is how it works. Like, this is how the mentality is, kind of.
Is there, I don't presume to like obviously understand the complicated nature of the culture, but there's also a very beautiful, to me, hierarchy of ages. And actually they touch on it in Blackpink when they're packing their suitcases. If you're 2 years older, 3 years older, or if it's an elder, there are special names, you know, like almost like auntie, uncle sort of names that are applied.
Older sister, older brother, younger, like this. Yeah.
And do you think some of that culture obviously applies to the workplace then too? If you have a superior, then you are not going to challenge that.
Exactly. And that was even for me quite fascinating to see that like this world famous girl group is has this hierarchy of age where just somebody can tell them, because he's older, he says, okay, and then you walk up the stage and stand there for 3 seconds, but not longer, because then it gets boring, and then you do like this. And then you expect from a pop star, like, I don't know, I watched a Madonna documentation from 1991 where she's in the early 20s, and she's just, in Canada, they say you cannot perform this song because it's too much. And then she says, nobody tells me what to do. Right? Like this kind of attitude you expect from them, but they're like, okay.
Yeah, that's a great documentary. It documents the girly show tour. This hierarchy of age is interesting. I see it in many cultures, but I guess what I find so odd about it is that here, you know, if there's an older man who lives across the street and he says ignorant and racist things, most of us wouldn't think twice about saying something back to him. And
like, hey, old man.
Well, the fact he's 70 years old hasn't earned any respect from me. That age doesn't mean anything. He's still saying ignorant, racist, bigoted things. And he just happens to be old saying them. And so I find that really interesting.
We do have you're pretty tough on that point for sure, personally, but we do have a little where if somebody in their 70s or 80s is speaking really out of touch, you just think, they're just old. They don't understand the way life is now. But if you had enough of it, you can say,
yeah, I know what you mean. You let a lot of it go. You kind of go, well, they're from a different generation and they don't know any better. But at the same time, age for me doesn't earn respect.
No.
That's just a number. You've been on this earth 30 years longer than me. You're going to be judged by your kindness and how you treat people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is very different from, as you said in the documentary, she's just 1 or 2 years older, and this clears up the hierarchy from day one. But also the other way around, like the younger ones come to them and say, hey, you girl who is 19 and I'm only 18, please give me advice on how to be a good member of a K-pop group and to be like world famous. And like you're asking a 19-year-old girl and you're 18.
It's a heavy responsibility.
What should she know, right?
Yeah.
But she's not like, hey, I'm just a year older. She's like, hey, I'm going to help you. As you know, and this is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this is very different from in Germany too. Like, where the thought that you just said that, I mean, when somebody's really old, like 70, 80, like respect for the elderly, this is like a thought that comes in the Western cultures, societies, is something that is there, right? As you said it, right? Like, but not for like a year or 9 months, right? Or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's got to be that, it's got to be that gap of age. It can't just be where that birthday falls.
Yeah. And even then it doesn't like justify to be racist or something like that.
Well,
right?
it never
and in
does.
Korea, it kind of does in a way.
Very interesting. I do want to talk about your work before now too. I'm very intrigued by, I think what might've been your latest work, which is 3 Billion Sisters in English. This is an opera?
It is an opera, yes.
How do you pronounce it in German?
3 Milliarden Schwestern.
That sounds beautiful. So was this your first opera?
Yes, was my first opera.
Can you tell us a bit about that work?
So I wanted to do an opera for many reasons. First of all, because I think opera, the genre itself, is really beautiful because it is theater with music, like where singers tell you the story through music, where they sing how they feel, where they sing like Enter the Door, or where they sing like, I don't know, the inner monologues or what they see, whatever, which is really amazing and funny, but just amazing actually. But then like opera itself, this genre opera in our world is very exclusive kind of, right? It's it belongs to just 0.0002% of the world population or something, right? I went to the opera before I made this opera maybe 3 times in my life. And every time I had to like Google up the Wikipedia article about the opera in order to know what's going on, because you never get the story. And then it's always the same things over and over again. And then people in the audience get really mad for reasons that you don't understand because something in the music was too fast, too loud, not loud enough, whatever, right? Or the performance was just not right. But for me, as a rookie, it always sounds great. And this is really interesting where there's so many codes that it feels like a password that you put in onto, like, I don't know, if you make a social media account and then that asks you to create a password and then you type in a word and then he says, put in some numbers and some signs too and symbols, because then it's a really good password. And this is how opera feels, like a really, really good password and nobody has access to it. And it's very big contrast to the genre itself, which is really beautiful, music in a theater. And so I wanted to do an opera to take it to me, kind of. Is that an expression? Like to grab it and make it something that I understand and that people have access to. And that was like the challenge kind of. And I looked for a team that was entirely rookies in opera, kind of like nobody had done opera before. Nobody was a singer, nobody was a professional. The composer comes from film music. He never composed an opera before. And then we also developed the opera through the rehearsals. So there was no opera in beforehand. And we did it with a school orchestra and young people on the stage. And so it was really nice. It was amazing. Yeah.
Did you have lots of support from your family and friends when you pursued a life in art and theater?
I think neither nor. I think it was not really support, but also not like objection or something like that. It was, I think, kind of indifferent. It was okay, you do that.
And then you found your way, or here we would say you find your tribe, like you find people like you who feel this is important work worth doing, right?
Well, I never know if I'm not sure. Actually, I don't think that what I do is very important. I think nobody really cares about theater, and it's absolutely fine. I still like doing theater, and I don't think it's really important in a way, in a sense of, I don't know, like when Greta Thunberg is not going to school anymore to demonstrate against climate change. And then the whole world is like, wow, I'm going to demonstrate too and not go to school anymore. Feels like much more important than doing theater in a way, because nobody really goes to theater, if we're honest, which is fine. But it's always a challenge to, like, I don't know, like a game or a challenge to get people into theater again.
Especially now.
It's like a task. I see the theater as like the enemy of the internet. I want the theater to be the enemy of the internet, the enemy of screens. But unfortunately, German theaters now, especially in the pandemic, they go into the internet and do all these online stuff, which is not theater anymore for me, because theater per definition is something that is in a room.
Physical.
Yeah, exactly. And I miss physicality. And even before Corona, I missed physicality a lot. And in a theater, I can't pull out my phone and look at my screen because it disturbs everyone. And sometimes there's not even reception in a theater. So I have to watch the show. And this is probably then the only time in a day where people don't look at a screen for like 90 to 120 minutes. And that changes a lot, I think, in your brain, in your soul. It's really nice. So I hope the theater can be like the enemy of screens or of the internet and social media and all these things.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.